Hey, do you guys want to hear about the time where I threw a fishing rod into a canal? Oh, what was that? No? Well, too bad, because I'm telling you anyways. Alright, sisters, story time. So every few years, me and my family like to visit Florida. And yes, those are supposed to be the Florida Keys. I know, it's sad. Reasons we would go to Florida is one, because it's nice there. Two, because up until a year ago, my aunt and uncle lived there. And three, because they have good old friends down there. A lot of the time, we would see my aunt, uncle, and their friends all on the same trip. My aunt and uncle used to live like somewhere in the mainland, while my parents' friends, we're gonna call them Gertrude and Frank, they lived in the Keys. Okay, Frank and Gertrude were probably 20 years older than my parents. Gertrude, I think, actually went to school with my grandma, and Frank was real good friends with my grandpa. So, yeah, they kind of knew my grandparents, and they were kind of like the cool uncle for my parents, from what I understand, even though they are not related in any way whatsoever. And I could definitely see that in the way that they act, even in their old age. Probably already figured it out, but yeah, they used to live in Ohio. That is more than enough background. Alright, so this story took place when I was about 7. This takes place where we are visiting Frank and Gertrude. I'm just gonna say it now because it's important later. Gertrude worked at a flea market. And they have this 20-foot deep canal in their backyard with jellyfish and, more importantly, crabs. My dad really likes to fish, so he wanted to fish in the canal. Naturally, Frank and Gertrude rented a fishing rod from their neighbor. I got one too because I'm just that special. So we were both fishing off the side of the canal when I noticed that my dad is something on the end of the line. So he pulls up a crab. He puts the crab on the cement, and this dude starts sprinting at me. This was terrifying. So, what did I do? I ran. I dropped that fishing rod and I ran my 7-year-old butt right back into the house. So, I looked back outside when I'd gotten inside, and immediately in my head I was just like, oh crap. Because I had not dropped that fishing rod, I had yeeted it right into the canal. My dad even dove in after it, but it was no use. So yeah, I had just thrown a borrowed fishing rod that cost a large sum of money into a 20-foot deep canal with jellyfish and crabs. My dad was pissed. I was 7 though, so I was able to kind of get away with it. Do you remember when I told you Gertrude worked in a flea market? That becomes relevant now. The next day I was walking around Gertrude's stand, just making small talk with anybody that walked by to buy anything. Man, I miss the days when I wasn't socially awkward. It was so much easier to communicate. At some point during the day, these 2 girls and their dad came by. I was talking to the girls, and somehow we found out that their dad was a diver. What a coincidence! Just the thing we needed. So we hired the guy to get the fishing rod out of the canal. Later that day, he shows up and he puts on all his diving gear and dives in. For a good 10 minutes, we just saw bubbles circling around in front of us. But eventually we saw his head pop up above the surface and he held up the fishing rod. He had found it. But when he got out, there was something completely different about the fishing rod. There was a fish on the end. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is gotta be the weirdest way that I've ever caught a fish. The guy got to keep it, though.